Why did you come back?
There's no doubt about it, Vikings will be remembered as a show that quit while it was ahead of the race. The sprawling saga brought the story of Ragnar Lothbrok and his sons to bed after 6 seasons, inspiring an ending that will be remembered fondly, unlike a similar medieval-era show characterized by pillaging savages and warriors who waged brutal wars for their houses and gods. Anyway, here are some secrets that you may have missed while watching the final season of the History Channel's Vikings. But first, a simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We are giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or MacBook Pro. It's all your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. 1. The choice of Kattegat's next leader wasn't random. For many fans of Vikings, it came as a surprise that the throne of Kattegat didn't end up with the son of Ragnar sitting on. Nor did the honor go to a character we've been invested in since the early seasons. Instead, the next ruler of Kattegat ended up being Bjorn's second wife, Ingrid, who was carrying a child that could be either Bjorn's or Harald's. While this choice of ruler is frustrating and even confusing to some, it's actually a bold statement from the showrunners, reminding us that Vikings has never been fixated on which character would end up winning. Ragnar, the legendary warrior, was never really interested in being king. As you may remember, he became the ruler of Kattegat only because his hand was forced by Earl Haraldsson. He wanted to explore unexplored worlds, so it never really made sense for him or any of his kids to be tied down to Kattegat. It's a bold and clear move to distinguish the show from others with a similar theme, including Game of Thrones. Vikings is not about who ends up on top. It's about what all the characters learned about themselves and their gods on the way to wherever they needed to be. Second, Ragnar's sons all inherited a piece of him. This has never been clearer than in the final season of the series. There was something inside Ragnar that has always been restless, fueling his desire to explore. Ubbe's final arc, aka his arrival in the West, fulfilled Ragnar's dream. Ubbe has always been the most pragmatic and level-headed of Ragnar's sons, so it wasn't surprising that he ended up being the one who lived his father's dream for him. Vistrik's conversion to Christianity is no doubt a nod to Ragnar's curiosity about the Christian god and his love for Athelstan. In fact, Vistrik's name was literally changed to Athelstan. Ivar the Boneless, despite his apparent physical weaknesses, embodied Ragnar's hunger for violence and war and his narcissistic tendencies. Remember when he became king and declared that he was not simply descended from the gods, but an actual god himself? Well, he did learn a lesson or two after losing his son, his position, and even his wife Freydis. In the end, just like Ragnar, Ivar welcomed his death. Third, Ivar died out of love, not out of hate. Ivar's death is not something to be sad about. In that moment, for the very first time, he was able to experience and feel human love, and demonstrate it in a way we never would have thought possible a few seasons ago. Now, here's the secret subtext you may have missed. In sacrificing himself for the sake of his brother, Ivar actually broke the cycle of hate that's been plaguing his kind since time immemorial. He was able to sacrifice himself, not for hate as his father once did, but for love, even with his eyes shining electric blue, signaling the impending doom of his brittle bones. He charged into battle and made up with the brother he'd spent his whole life mocking and tormenting, thus allowing Fitzurk to flee and start a new life. Thus, and the ensuing moment of peace and ceasefire that followed when Alfred gave Fitzurk the time to mourn the death of his blood, shifted the entire history of the Vikings altogether. Fourth, the chess game that finally ended. The climactic confrontation that has been tagged as the Twilight of the Gods did not happen through fate or accident. In many ways, it was simply a continuation of the chess game that Ivar and Alfred played together as children, while their fathers cut deals and hatched plans in the next room. Early warriors always had justifications for their pillaging and bloodthirsty ways. They claimed they're doing it all for the glory of their respective gods. But both Ivar and Alfred found themselves confronted with a dire reality when both of their gods failed to answer their desperate battle-cry pleas. They finally realized that they weren't forged in the image of God. Rather, they were the image of their fathers, who, like them, simply inherited their violent tendencies from their fathers before them. Ivar's rejection of Ragnar's ways and Alfred's acceptance of Athelstan's legacy that runs through his veins are poignant reminders that their fathers' battles are not theirs to continue forever. They could just leave their pieces on that chessboard and move on, because there are much better games to play. Fifth, Ragnar no longer considered himself a Viking. All throughout the next season, there was this lingering feeling that the age of Vikings has long expired. But this development has been coming for a while now. During a rather private scene between Gisla and Rollo, she talks about stabbing someone in the back in a sneak attack. Rollo says he did not agree with such a method of killing, saying it wasn't the nice way of the Viking. Keep in mind that when you rewatch the scene where Ragnar stabbed his own warriors in their sleep on his way to Egbert's palace, not only were their backs completely turned against him, they were sound asleep, so there was really no way they could have defended themselves themselves from Ragnar's ruthless attack. This is a clear indication that Ragnar has long turned his back on the Viking way, and in turn, everything he once was. Sixth, Ragnar, Ivar, and Hvitserk were not the only ones who left the old ways behind. When Ubi ventured across the vast ocean in search of a promised golden land, it presented a magical opportunity for him to start fresh, but the origins of his kind were not that easy to shake off. As Othere pointed out and told Ubi, you discovered a new land, but you behave in the same ways as you did before, and then it becomes just like the land you left behind. Just like that, Ubi's commitment to starting a new life was tested by an event that took place between his settlers and the wonderful Micmac people, who graciously welcomed them onto their native land. After Ubi's settlers received a gift in the form of gold, a Norse man named Nad grows greedy and raids the natives' land, even killing the local leader's son when he was caught in flagrant delicto. When the criminal was presented before Ubi, he initially ordered a primitive, traditional execution by blood eagle. Eventually, Ubi decides in a moment of mercy to make it quick and virtually painless by simply slitting his throat open. This is a clear indication that Ubi has decided with conviction to adapt the ways of the new civilization he's found and reject the old ways, which has proven to be gravely problematic. Seventh, a not-so-secret message that kindness can be truly weaponized. Before all these redemption arcs happened, there was a key moment in Season 6 that showed how kindness can be weaponized and how Ivar was truly his father's son. You remember how Ragnar instructed Ivar to return home with news of Ecbert's duplicity, gambling, quite correctly, that King Ecbert's sense of fair play due to his Christianity would deter him from harming or imprisoning a poor, harmless, crippled boy. This must have taught Ivar that kindness and compassion are fatal weaknesses. During the first part of the final battle, Ivar repeats his father's tactics by ordering traps to ensnare the first of Alfred's soldiers that will advance to battle. His gamble was that Alfred's Christian ways would compel him to send the next few lines of soldiers to assist their troubled brothers. This allowed the Vikings to swoop in and ambush them like a bunch of lambs, led to their own bloody slaughter. Many lives were lost, sending another dire message that kindness, when unchecked, can surely be weaponized. 8. A clear foreshadowing of the colonization of America. Most fans thought that the image of a soaring eagle after Ubi's arrival in the quote-unquote New World meant he's reached the land that will eventually be the USA. He and his settlers actually arrived in northeastern Canada. In reality, Norse explorers reached North America in the 11th century. Ubi's quest in Vikings, though mostly fictional, stands as a foreshadowing for the colonization of the Americas by European explorers. 9th, Floki's character provides a real, hard look into the future of the Viking legend. Floki, once an elite member of the Vikings, somehow ended up in the New World, living as a revered mystic in the fringes of the Skraeling's land. Floki represents the past of the Vikings as we come to know them in today's modern world, a pastiche of incredible tales and questionable omissions. He embodies how time will continuously wash away the Vikings' history and their legend, making it quite a challenge to separate fact from lore. There was a time when Floki was the greatest soldier and preacher for the gods, but as he himself said, he called to them and no longer heard their voices, or they simply stopped making sense. Floki remembers Ragnar and his sons, and the fact that he was once a Viking, but not much else. Finally, the show ended with an open question. After all the bloodshed, treachery, and tears, this one heck of a show ends with a lingering question about philosophy, mortality, and life itself. But as Ubi asked Floki whether death was the end, the latter offered no reply. Thus, the show that began with Ragnar's burning curiosity ended with a question. Ubi verbalizes his love for Floki, symbolically closing the rift that was once created between the chuckling boatmaker and Ragnar. As the two stared across the ocean in the final scene of Vikings, we were left to understand that these two misfits may have to spend an entire eternity seeking for answers without certainty of ever finding any. And for once, they are at peace with it.